I would say in the early 2010s, it looks like. And it's just been growing since then to lead us to where we're at now. So in my fictional world, it comes to a breaking point, just like every narcissistic and abusive toxic relationship does. It eventually gets stretched so thin it snaps. There becomes nothing else that can save that relationship because all the other manipulation tactics and abuse tactics have been exhausted. People and groups of people can only take so much. And those people are so freaking strong, you have no idea. If you've never experienced homelessness, don't sit here and tell me that you're better than a person that doesn't have a house or a home to go lay their head on or a fridge to go get their food from, because the courage and the strength it takes to wake up every single day and carry on and push forward, not knowing what your future is going to be, that to me is so strong. And I am tired of people like that being demonized because they do not deserve it. And we need to flip that upside down. And in my book, in this fictional town I'm hoping you'll help me create, aloha and welcome to episode 3 of Charm Hawaii, the show where I invite you on an interactive behind-the-scenes journey from pen to published of my new book series, Charm Hawaii. In this episode, I'm going to introduce you to the fictional town of, you guessed it, Charm Hawaii. It's inspired by the strategies, ideas, hopes, and goals that are outlined in this amazing book called The Compassionate Community by a nun named Catherine Harmer. She was a medical mission sister with a PhD in psychology who traveled the world living quite literally in the image of Jesus Christ. I tell you all about it in the previous episode, and I encourage you to check it out if you haven't heard it. She discusses what could happen if we stayed on a dark path and didn't make changes, and she wrote a book about it in 1998 in the hopes to see changes in the year of the Jubilee 2000. Unfortunately, the ideas that she had didn't quite come to fruition, but it looks like they definitely started. And then it looks like, in my opinion, in the 2010s, things took a turn, and now here we are now. But guess what? We're in another year of Jubilee and we have some time left. Maybe, just maybe, she was onto something. And I very much encourage you to give me a shot and hear what she has to say. I'm hoping to get this book into publication so I can get it into your hands, and some donations to the Medical Mission Sisters, Philadelphia, where they're based, but they work all over the world, and they are an incredible organization. And I'm going to explain to you why that matters and what that matters to my book series later on. For now, I'm going to try to stay on subject because I keep trying to say, I'm going to tell you guys all about this fictional town, and I keep going off past. Bear with me and clamber along this journey with me. By the way, I'm Nadine, and I'm writing a book series. It's called Charm Hawaii, and there's 5 books that are part of the series. Each book is going to introduce you to a new bad guy, probably a handful of them. A lot of narcissists, a lot of sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists, a lot of just shady people. Not all of the people are going to be narcissists. Some people are simply flying monkeys, because the theme is no man is an island. No one person is able to get away with all of the things that any famous criminal or any non-famous criminal or system that is rooted in narcissism and hierarchy and punishment and pain and selfishness and basically all the 7 sins rolled up into one. They all have the same pattern, and it never ends well for them. We're going to talk about it, and no man is an island because none of them can survive alone. They need an entire network to survive. And the biggest enabler of them all is the criminal justice system of the United States. I can't speak for other countries, I don't live there, but through my experience, I want to talk about the changes that we need to make. And by doing that, I don't want to just outright do that, because apparently you get in trouble for that nowadays in the land of the free speech. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about a fictional world where everything is different. okay? I'm asking you to join me on my journey as I tell my story, as I write it. I'm going to bring you behind the scenes. I'm going to show you around Hawaii and the places that the characters are going to eat at, shop at, all the places that they work at, what a day in the life looks like in Hawaii. I know it's all coconuts, pineapples, and fun, but it's so much more than that. The people who this land belongs to, it's not a good story, and we're going to talk about that. This is an occupied land, and I understand that's confusing to people. I never even heard of it describe that until moving here. And unfortunately, I'm already here, and I really can't go back to where I came from, but I don't. We'll talk about that, but I would, if I had to, I would absolutely move to wherever I need to go, just not from my original home. If it meant that the people who this island belonged to got to have it back, that would be amazing. I don't know what that would look like. That's not something for me to describe, but in my imaginary world, the system as we know it has collapsed, and that's where the book begins, okay? It's going to be this 36-hour dark out period where the lights go out, everything goes out, and people, all they have is this one voice on one radio station that is walking them through it, and somehow everything's fine, all right? It's going to be magical because it's imaginary, and that's not what the book is about. Maybe in the future we can write a book about that if somebody else can, but that doesn't sound... That's not what this is about. This is the day of what happens to Lucy, the main character. Her name is Lucy Bloom, and she is a mom of 3 boys living in Hawaii who moved from the Philadelphia area. She's inspired by the best version of me. She is not me, but she carries my story for me. I created Lucy about 5 years ago when I started writing scripts and books and just trying to come up with ideas, and I kept thinking I had the right one, and it's evolved and changed so much that it's an entire new beast that has went from one book where I wanted to be pretty anonymous is now 5 books where I don't care if I'm anonymous anymore, because for the first time in my life I am the safest and the most in danger of losing that safety than I've ever been. And I will not just sit back and hope for the best while expecting the worst. I won't do it. I don't know how to fix things, and the thing that I'm gonna do is put my energy and my word and my idea out into the world and try to engage in a different kind of way. And my idea is what I am asking you to do is help me create an imaginary world where we talk about what it could look like if it was different. If you follow me on my journey, I'm going to be telling you all about the characters and also the world. First, I want to talk about the world before we get into the story. Long story short, it's a murder mystery, and you're going to find out the people involved in the situation and how they got there. And that timeline is going to go from the 90s all the way up to 2030. Bookends of the book will be 2030, where it's a new world 5 years after the collapse. That part of the book is where you're going to meet Lucy, where things are all still nice and shiny, okay? That's the before, that's the after part. Is obviously she gets through it. Or does she? Because you don't know where she's going to be telling her story from. She might be telling it from a prison cell. She might be telling it from her house. You don't know. Throughout the book, you're going to be learning about this mystery murder situation, and you're really going to question who did what and if Lucy is a killer, all right? But let's talk about the town that I'm asking you to vote on, talk about, and really just get involved with and have fun with it. I don't want any negativity and just grossness, okay? I won't tolerate anybody's bullshit. Please don't do that. As Lucy's story unfolds, you'll see her out and about in her town and interacting with people and talking. News will be on, whatever. You'll see what the world looks like. And I know I said you're not going to know if she's in a jail cell, but here's the kicker. Prison's going to look much different than what it is now. What is it right now? A big old mess. In my opinion, slavery was never abolished, it was simply modernized, and the modern prison system is an absolute disgrace. Our country has 25% of the world's prisoners in our prison system, but we only have 5% of the world's population. Was it that we are the most evil country on the planet? We are, aren't we? Statistically speaking. Or maybe the country is doing terrible things on our behalf and in our name, and by our, us the citizens, and to me, that represents all of us, every single one of us. And this idea that certain people have earned more of a voice just because they were born in a specific tax bracket and a specific shade of skin and a specific religion is absolutely asinine. In this fictional world, all of that is going to be not erased like it magically didn't happen, but it will be addressed. This world will have rules and laws and the lay of the land that will look much different than what we experience now. Some of the things off the bat will be education. Education will be open to anybody who wants it, and paths will be created for anybody to be able to get there. And what that will look like in this imaginary world is anybody, you don't have to be a doctor by being born to doctors. You don't have to have the funds or abilities in some way to get through medical school. In this imaginary world, you don't have to put yourself in debt and jump through hoops and become some sort of sad orphan eating machine case where they talk about the orphan eating machine. That's such an interesting one to me. It's that parable or whatever. The news said the orphan eating machine was closed for the day. So instead of being happy it was closed, why should it be open at all? We should be addressing the fact that it shouldn't be open at all. My book is going to pretty much be what are the orphan eating machines and what can we do to prevent that? I think some of the most basic ones are pretty simple. Education, food, housing, healthcare. If everybody was brought to the same level instead of the poverty line, allowing people to live below it, in this fictional world, that is not an option. It's just simply not. Wealth will be just redistributed from the 1% to the 99% in ways that aren't handouts. Get that out of your brain, because that's just a term that was created to be very manipulative and look bad. And it doesn't help anybody. Hand up is a big difference, and making sure everybody's needs are met is something that the creator of the universe, whether you believe it's a god or a universe or whatever your belief system is, we have the resources to live peacefully and wholly and be fed whole, WHOLE, and be fed and housed and clothed. We have those resources. We shouldn't be throwing away rotten fruit. We should not have a system where rotten fruit is not valuable, because rotten fruit shouldn't even exist. It should be simply given to all the humans that need it. And if the humans have too much, then the animals and etc. Why the idea of our land just being sucked dry, it's got endless resources, and just profiting the very top is not the way the gods or the universal creators intended, and you can't tell me otherwise. We've seen it's not working. It's not working at all. And in this imaginary town of Charm, Hawaii, it's going to be set in the windward side of Oahu, coastal, quiet, think Cape May meets Doylestown or New Hope, but not with the racism and classism. It's not a terrible place at all, the real life examples, but it could use some improvement, especially since they seem to be going in the wrong direction since I moved away from there, which is very sad. When I see the places that I grew up in that I still love make the news for all the wrong reasons, it fucks me up. It makes me really sad. And I think we need to do better, don't you? My purpose in doing this is I thought it would be an interesting experiment of sorts to try to paint a world that is better, that looks better, because people seem to be really scared of change. And I get that, but change isn't that bad at all. And once people figure out what they're scared of, and it usually falls down to all the same thing, is it's the unknown. That's all. If something you don't know about, the internet's at your fingertips. They can't put the genie back in the bottle. It's already out. Go learn it. You can learn anything you want nowadays. When my son was little, he was 3 years old, and he said to me, "Mommy, I can't know everything, but I can learn anything." And that stuck with me forever. That little boy, he is the light of my life, and he always will be, even though he is full grown, and he will always be my baby. No matter what, I don't care. Anyway, that advice that the child taught me changed my world, and I've been learning ever since. And I think it's sad that so many people were taught that you can't learn after a certain age. All dogs don't learn new tricks and stuff, because that's not true. That's not true. You can learn about literally anything. And if there's things that you're not comfortable with, you just hop on and put it in the search bar and go look for it. Let's pick a topic. Transgender people. If you don't know any transgender people, that's okay. You probably don't, because there's such a small percentage of the population that the odds of you knowing a transgender person are much lower than you knowing a criminal or somebody who has been convicted of a crime or has committed a crime. The odds of you knowing a transgender person is 1%, and the odds of knowing a criminal is significantly higher than that. How many criminals do you know? Probably a lot. You might not know it because people don't really go around exposing their own criminal history, but that's the difference between transgender people that is obvious isn't the right word, because there's so many transgender people who are not obvious at all, but just either tell you or I don't know. I hope this is making sense. But just search and go explore. Read books, read fiction books, read real books. Look up creators, content creators. Don't say anything gross or nasty, because I'll find out about it and I'll be real mean to you. And just learn. Just quietly learn. Just shut the fuck up, sit down and learn. I can promise you, drag queens are awesome. Just because a very small percentage aren't, doesn't mean the rest of them are or not. Because that's the same thing that goes with everybody. I've never met a drag queen I didn't like, but I've met plenty of rich white guys that I cannot stand being in the same room with. Does that mean that all drag queens are cool and great and fun and nice? No, not at all. But just the same percentage of people that aren't are the same percentage of the higher population. The not the higher the main fuck. But research whatever you want in a respectful, healthy, and educational way, and it becomes less scary. I just picked transgender people because they're a hot topic right now. And the reason for that is they are being targeted by nefarious people, okay? What do narcissists do? They pick a scapegoat and put all the negative attention on that person or that group. In this case, we're seeing on a much higher level than just a group of friends, just at a massive level. Instead of one narcissist, it's a whole hive of them. And they picked transgender people to be a scapegoat. And it's ridiculous because they want you looking at the wrong 1%. No matter what, they don't want you looking at them. They are the 1%, period. And to divert your attention away from them, they're saying, oh, here's somebody that you can look down on and feel better than, and feel that you're winning and that you're this us-them dichotomy that is spoken about in the book of how we're divided, because what do they say? Divided we fall, and that is very, very true. What I'm asking you to do is to please come together and talk about not talk about our differences, but talk about what we have together the same things. In the book, my aunt talks about the 3 major religions and all of the things that they are the same on, not their differences. And they all agree that Jesus is a pretty awesome guy. He was pretty cool. Whether he was real or not, I don't know, but the idea of him is real nevertheless, and the interpretation matters. And the interpretation that we've seen of late that is somehow infiltrated our entire system since a long time, but really came out of the closet, I guess, so to speak, I would say in the early 2010s, it looks like. And it's just been growing since then to lead us to where we're at now. So in my fictional world, it comes to a breaking point, just like every narcissistic and abusive, toxic relationship does. It eventually gets stretched so thin it snaps. There becomes nothing else that can save that relationship because all the other manipulation tactics and abuse tactics have been exhausted. People and groups of people can only take so much. And those people are so freaking strong, you have no idea. If you've never experienced homelessness, don't sit here and tell me that you're better than a person that doesn't have a house or a home to go lay their head on or a fridge to go get their food from, because the courage and the strength it takes to wake up every single day and carry on and push forward, not knowing what your future is going to be, that to me is so strong. And I am tired of people like that being demonized because they do not deserve it. And we need to flip that upside down. And in my book, in this fictional town, I'm hoping you'll help me create, homelessness is no more. And how are we going to make that happen? Let's figure it out. What do you think the world will look like? And what are things that we can do to make that happen? In my opinion, the number one thing that we can do is eradicate prison slave labor. Prison labor altogether is pretty horrific, especially when it's for these for-profit prisons. It does not benefit us at all, us the citizens or the prisoners, and especially their families. Do you think a child deserves to have a parent taken from them, forced to work outside in the sun on a chain gang, cleaning up dirt and litter and getting paid for that, and all that money goes to everywhere but that little boy that needs to make that phone call and say, "Daddy, I love you and I miss you and I can't wait for you to come home"? Do you know how expensive it is for that little boy to make that phone call? It's expensive. It's so expensive that the inmate can't afford it. So whoever is taking care of that little boy has to pay that so that little child can talk to a loved one in prison. It is not the child's fault, and I do not care what the person is in prison for. If there are children and family members that love them, they should be able to communicate with them. Children don't deserve to be ripped away from their families like that. It's not okay. And we're going to talk about that. In Charm, prisoners are in prison for crimes that they committed, and they're getting treatment to be better people, to understand why they committed the crimes they did, and to build new lives that when they get released, they are not just dumped into the wild with zero money, zero skills, big barriers to jobs, housing, medical care, and everything else that comes with it that we have nowadays. In Charm, in this fictional world, it does not look like that. And people that are in prison, the prisoners that will be working, will be making money, but that money will go to support their families. So instead of a mother suddenly not having any support for her child financially, emotionally, physically, and everything else, and she's got no one to lean on, instead of her now having to come up and make up all the money that she won't get from her partner or even ex-partner, the children's parent who still has the responsibility to make sure that they are cared for in this world. If whatever they are incarcerated for, it is not their family's fault, and the family should not be the ones to pay for that. And in my imaginary town world, that's not the way it's going to be. Inmates will be treated as humans. They will be fed properly. They will be taught how to garden. They will harvest their own food. Schools will harvest their own food. People will work with each other of what skills are best. You go do that. What skills, it doesn't matter. If you're a terrible writer, then that's okay. Don't be a writer. Why should you be judged on your writing ability when your skills are math? And vice versa. And in this imaginary world, that's the kind of things that will align. And jobs will be created because they will look so much different. The transportation system in this imaginary world will be based on drivers that are schooled, educated, and highly trained on driving the area and everything else, navigating the whole town. So in places like Hawaii, where it's heavily based on tourism, instead of a bajillion rental cars clogging the roads, where people don't know how to drive here because it's built kind of weird and super different, they can just heavily rely on a public transport system that will be running smoothly and the operators being paid a living wage. Things like that are what you're going to see in my imaginary town of charm. So what are some of your ideas? What do you think an imaginary town that is based on community instead of capitalism would look like? What are some rules and laws that would be instilled in this fictional place that would kind of not force this on people, but force this on people? Right now, we have a lifestyle being forced on us that I don't appreciate. We have been funding the rich and the top 1% for way too long, and I'm sick of it, and I know a lot of us are. But we're not allowed to talk about that because we're going to get silenced in whatever ways, and I'm trying to put my voice out there, and I hope that somebody hears me, and I hope you guys join in. And I think we need to look at what hope can be, because hope and despair are two sides of the same coin, and right now there's way too much despair. And I think by creating a parallel imaginary universe kind of will help hopefully, I hope I don't sound cocky, but like a glimmer of hope of like what would it look like if we do things different, if diversity, inclusion, and equity, instead of being squashed like they were expanded, and everything was put into place so that nobody has to suffer. Imagine what a world would look like. Let's talk about that. Let's take a minute to stop staring at the fire and just focus on the hope. And then let's get out there and see what we can do to make these changes, that we need to start happening. Anyway, good luck, everybody. We got this, guys. We got this. We got this. Let's not lose hope. We got this, okay? And help me inspire some hope by creating a fictional town in my book series. I'll tell you about my book series in the next episode. Thank you for listening. Again, my name is Nadine, and welcome to my brand new podcast as I stumble through this and build my book series and invite you on the journey from pen to published. I hope you have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in episode 4.